Minister, thank you so much, as always, to give us a little bit of your time. The Chancellor, we understand, won't raise spending as much as President Trump demands for the foreseeable future. Will this weaken Germany, or can you live with the difference?
Well, you know, Germany has come a long way. You remember that at the summit in Wales, it was President Obama who insisted on implementing the 2% goal, rightly so. And since then, we have an increased budget. Today, I'm just coming out of the cabinet. We had a raise of my budget by 11% for the next year. And if we look at the whole decade after Wales, the projected increase in real terms in the German defense budget will be roughly 81%. So this is a lot, and this shows we are committed to the 2% goal.
Do you think President Trump will take that as a move in the right direction, or do you worry that it will just be an excuse for the U.S. to say Germany's not doing enough, and so to attack Germany?
Well, the sentence Germany is not doing enough. You know, we have on one hand cash, which is how much are we spending in the defense budget of the GDP. And on the other hand, we have the question, who is contributing what? Capabilities and contributions are important to NATO, of course. And if you look there at the facts, Germany is the second largest troop contributor to NATO, in Afghanistan too. Or we are, for example, the second largest net payer. So I think you have to have a balanced look at who is doing what, who is investing what. And in the very end, in this summit, it is about unity. We're defending the same values. We're sitting on the same side of the table. And it is about resolve. We are determined to strengthen the alliance.
So what was your initial reaction to that Trump letter to the Chancellor?
Well, the letter was a letter we expected because, as I said, it is a goal we have since we decided on it with President Obama. So we are on a good way, and I think it is important to debate about or to talk about the issues that really affect the alliance. Who are our opponents? Our opponents would be delighted if there is a division in NATO. So to work on the strengthening of our alliance, to work on the unity, is the most important goal for this summit.
The Italian government, for example, was trying to say that the way that defense is actually calculated is flawed, that it should be targeted spending rather than the raw numbers. Do you share the view that, I guess, a simple percentage of GDP is just too simplistic?
Well, the percentage of GDP is right because it shows if you have a small GDP, you have a small amount you have to invest in defense. If you have a large one, of course, your defense spending has to be larger. I think this is fair, but it is only one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is, as I said, capabilities and contributions. And there, the balance sheet of Germany is a pretty good one.
Minister, are you prepared for President Trump to raise the issue of trade at NATO, given he's linked the issue of surpluses and defense spending before?
Yes, he did that before, of course, therefore we are prepared. I think this is an immature discussion, because if you look at trade and the topic of tariffs, tariffs are certainly not beneficial for growth. And if we hinder growth, if we have a negative impact on growth, this will be negative for the GDP and negative for the tax income a country has. So this will lower defense spending or the opportunity of defense spending. And therefore, I think we should turn the discussion into a mature discussion which disentangles both topics. They are not related to each other.
But if the president does relate them, how uncomfortable will it get for Germany particularly?
Well, it will be a discussion we have to lead. And just to tell you, it's not only Germany. We have at the moment being, I think, 13 countries out of 29, so almost half of the alliance, who do not meet the 2%. And therefore, it is an overall issue we do have. We've come quite a long way since Wales. The Secretary General will show the balance sheet, and this is an impressive one. We really modernized the alliance, and we strengthened the alliance. So this is the way we have to proceed. And therefore, it's okay to have this issue, to have this discussion within NATO. In the very end, the big question is, with what kind of message are we getting out of the summit? And I expect the message to be unity.
Minister, when President Trump says NATO is worse than NAFTA, is this, again, does it go back to trade? Is this partly about getting NATO allies to buy more defense equipment from the US?
Well, actually, we buy the defense equipment that is the best and that we need. And if I say we, it's all the armed forces of the members of the alliance. So it might be American products, but it might also be European products. We just started the European Defense Fund in our European Defense Union. So that the fragmentation within Europe will be stopped, and that we invest commonly in, for example, the fighter jets of the future, or the tanks of the future, cyber equipment of the future, so that we have a larger interoperability between our armed forces. This is a strong goal in NATO, and that we stop fragmentation. Therefore, we want to buy what is the best product for our armed forces.
Minister, Vladimir Putin and President Trump are about to hold their first summit. Is there a risk that actually Europe will be left adrift in the middle? Are German politicians trying to plan ahead of that risk?
Well, I think it is good that President Trump and President Putin are meeting. It's always good to talk. The Chancellor is talking to President Putin several times a month since 13 years now, even if there are issues between our countries. But I think it is always good to talk. It is good to talk from a position of strength. Therefore, this NATO summit before the meeting of the Russian and the American president is important, and the message coming out of it is important. But in general, I think if we are clear about our standpoint, clear about our values, clear about the fact that the annexation of Crimea is violating international law, then, of course, it is good to stretch out the hand and to talk together to solve the issues at the negotiation table.
Minister, we've also had quite a lot of instability or upheaval in German politics, and investors have been a little bit, nervous about what comes next. Are we going to have even more volatility when it comes to German politics?
Well, we had a debate over the last 4 weeks about how to move on in topics of migration. We've improved a lot. Just to give you a number, since 2015, migration is down in numbers by 95%. This is a lot. And I think the European summit we just had was a big success, because for the very first time, all the heads of states and government in Europe have signed the commitment to really go into a concept to solve the migration issues, to start with the African continent, to invest in it, to have a clear order at the external border. Frontex is the topic there, but also to clarify how are we dealing with migrants that have come to Europe, who is granted asylum and who is not granted asylum and has to be sent back to his home country. So for the very first time, all heads of state and government agreed to the same concept. This is a big step forward.
Minister, thank you so much again for your time. That was the German Defense Minister, and she is Ursula von der Leyen.